really scary day, all right? There's a lot of both exciting stuff and scary stuff going on in the markets. We're going to break it down. There's so much really hyped up stuff that we're going to talk about. Stocks are moving up. Some stocks are moving down. A lot of our favorite stocks, though, are actually doing quite well today. A lot of the stocks that we tend to talk about on the channel, DWAC being one of them, okay? DWAC is doing incredibly well. I bet you guys already know the news. It's something we've been anticipating. And let's just take a second to look at the DWAC chart and notice how high it was able to get and where it's actually at right now, right? We actually did pump up massively in the pre-market from where we closed yesterday, around 85 bucks. We were up at one point to $138 per share, so up 62%. And now we're up closer to around 12, 13%. So we have faded away a little bit during the pre-market, but that could change when the actual trading volume of the day kicks in. When we start after the opening bell, we could see some real volume kicking in. Now we're going to look at some statistics regarding DWAC, talk about what the news is for those of you who don't know, and then we're going to start moving in to a little bit of what's going on worldwide, what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, and the potential invasion that may have just begun. And we're going to talk a little bit about crypto and whatnot. So first, I will say that we do have an exciting announcement today, and we're probably going to announce it around like 5, 6, 7 minutes into the stream, maybe 10 minutes, just to give people a chance to get in. But overall, it's pretty cool stuff. And whether you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, I think you're going to be pretty excited to hear this. Some people will be, at least. And I think that we're going to see it is a little bit tied to some of the stocks that we're talking about. So we'll pull up, first of all, this initial story discussing DWAC. This is the big deal, right? This is the reason why DWAC is moving up massively, okay? Trump's Truth Social app debuts in Apple's App Store and hits #1 in top charts on President's Day. So this debuted yesterday, February 21st, President's Day. Probably no coincidence that that's when Trump chose to launch this thing. And it has actually received massive amounts of new users signing up. So many, in fact, that some people who downloaded it are receiving error messages just because there's so much volume moving through this app. And this is very typical. I think that oftentimes, when a new game or a new app or whatever, a new website launches and a ton of people are trying to use it, you oftentimes see a bunch of error messages. People started having to get placed on wait lists because there are so many people signing up for this thing. And they actually say, when you're signing up and you get placed on a wait list, they say, due to massive demand, we have placed you on a wait list. So overall, really good stuff, right? It doesn't matter if you get your foot in the door day 1, 2, 3, 4, or even 5. As long as you're getting in eventually, you'll probably be pretty happy with the thing. And it's overall a good thing for the app because that means there are just that many more people signing up to use it. So really good stuff. And the CEO of Trump Media and Technology Group, the company that's going to merge with DWAC, Devin Nunes, has said the company has a goal of making the app fully operational by the end of March, at least within the US, he told Fox News. So we're looking at probably at some point within the next 30 to 35 days. We'll probably see this thing fully operational, right? All the kinks will be worked out, and it'll be essentially, an alternative version to apps like Twitter and Facebook that people can use to connect socially with people. So exciting stuff. Now, on February 15th, Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., posted what he said was the former president's first post on Truth Social, where he said, "Get ready, your favorite president will see you soon." So Trump will probably be using this app sometime soon. I haven't heard of any tweets specifically from Trump other than this, but hopefully he'll say something soon once some of these kinks get worked out, once some people get off the wait list and can actually start using the app. But very exciting stuff so far, what we're seeing. A ton of people are looking into DWAC stock, and potentially for the first time. Now, a lot of people may not have heard of DWAC when this thing initially debuted. If you look back over the course of the past maybe 180 days or so, you can see that we saw massive volume when it first debuted. Over the first 2 days, it got up to highs of $175 before we had some halts in the stock market that ended up kind of helping us on the way down. But now we're moving back up, right? We hit highs of $138, and we're currently sitting around 95. We're probably going to use 100 as maybe a resistance level, but we'll see. If we can blast through that, then sky's the limit, right? So overall, very exciting stuff, right? As Truth Social is launching, a ton of new people are probably hearing about it. A ton of new people are probably downloading it and potentially looking into what company is behind this thing and maybe deciding to invest in it. I know a lot of people are probably doing that, and we'll actually pull up Truth Social on the App Store. We've got it right here. The number one in social networking at the moment. We've already got 3,500 reviews or ratings for it, which is pretty impressive considering it came out yesterday, and overall score of 4.4 stars. So pretty good stuff, right? You could probably expect that it's going to have a really high rating, even if there are some kinks. People understand that this is day one of the launch or day two of the launch, and that there is massive demand. It's unprecedented, and that there's probably going to be some kinks. Now, unfortunately, it's only available on the App Store at the moment, right? But that's completely expected. I mean, you can see the trouble that they've had getting all the kinks worked out, even for just a launch on the App Store. Now, just imagine if they launched the web version and the Android version. It would be, so much volume it might crash the internet. And you can see right here the web version of Truth Social. It's currently, you can just join the waitlist here. That's all you can really do on the web version. But eventually, they want to get this whole thing rolled out pretty widely. Now, there is an interesting statistic that we can look at to potentially figure out how many users might be signing up. And there's a reason why this company, DWAC, and the company it's going to merge with, TMTG, Trump Media and Technology Group, could be doing incredibly well in the future, not just at a stock level, but at a fundamental level, okay? So we'll take a peek at this chart, the 2020 National Popular Vote Tracker, all right? And you can see that Trump got over 74 million votes. Now, this is actually an almost unprecedented amount of votes, right? I don't believe, ever seen this many votes before. If you actually look at this chart showing the share of the total population who voted, you can see that we hit record highs in 2020 of 48%. So almost half of people in the U.S. ended up voting in 2020, according to this statistic. And a lot of those people voted for Trump, 74 million of them. Now, I'm sure there were some people who would have liked to vote for him and didn't end up getting out to the polls. They didn't vote. It didn't work out for them. They just didn't end up getting there, or were too lazy or whatever. And, some of those people might even decide to download Truth Social eventually, and Trump Media and Technology Group's other products. I believe TMTG Plus, a video streaming platform that they're going to release later. There's a ton of stuff that these people can download. And it's really a great idea to have launched these platforms digitally, right? Instead of opening up a physical business, which, Trump could have gone that route. If he wanted to open up a business and make a stock around it, he could have done a physical business like Trump Mart. He could have done whatever. And that business, sure, it could have gotten a lot of traction, but it would not have benefited in the way that DWAC is going to benefit from these 74 million people, because Trump is using another form of leverage, right? He's using technological leverage to access all of these people. All he has to do is develop an application, Truth Social, and then he can reach 74 million people instead of making a brick and mortar store, which, would potentially yield a decent amount of people shopping at it, but only in whatever local area. Maybe some people would travel to it. I think he's gone down a really good road and made this application, and is making a suite of applications, right? He wants to make a podcasting platform. He wants to make a video streaming platform. And those platforms will actually be working with Cfvi or Rumble stock. For those of you who are unaware of that, they will be working together. And it's exciting stuff, to say the least, right? It's going to allow him to reach very many people, and potentially, and most likely, in my opinion, to collect massive amounts of revenue, because there are swaths of people. I mean, it's tough to get 74 million dedicated loyal customers to something on launch day. And I'm not saying that everyone is going to download the app, right? I haven't downloaded it because I don't actually have an iPhone. I don't have access to the App Store. But I'll be making an account whenever it's available on Android or the web. And there are surely a ton of people who are making accounts now. That's why we're seeing the app actually put people on wait lists, because of the massive demand. And it's incredibly likely that we're going to see that continue for some time, right? We're probably going to see a lot more people downloading this thing. I'll be very curious to see the numbers in a week or two of how many people downloaded this. It might, it probably will be some kind of record for a new application being downloaded. Just my personal opinion. Maybe TikTok could beat it out, but I think that overall we'll probably see some kind of record for this, because there are so many people who have been waiting for it for a long time, and so many people who have an interest in it. And those people, not everyone's even heard of it yet. Some people are going to be hearing about it just now as it actually becomes something that they can download and use in the real world. Now, I will say that despite the overall bullish presence of this app and the likelihood that it's going to do incredibly well, that it's going to get a ton of downloads, that hasn't stopped a lot of the media from bashing it. And we'll just look at one instance of this, all right? We'll just look at one instance of the media kind of bashing this app. And before we do, if I could ask you guys for a little favor of hitting the like button, that would actually help out with the algorithm just a little bit and help get this out to some more people, help get out the word about DWAC. If you could hit the like button or the Rumble button if you're watching on Rumble, we'll pull up this more FUD-based story on DWAC, okay? A lot of people are probably reading this kind of a version of the news, right? Where this is from Vice, and they say the launch of Donald Trump's Twitter clone, Truth Social, is a complete mess. And, I think that, we might think the opposite. We might think it's a huge success. A ton of people are downloading it, so many that they are getting errors and that they're having to put people on wait lists. There's so many people wanting to download this thing. And they say Trump's Truth Social platform is technically live, but beset with technical problems and unavailable on Android or the web. And, there's something a little bit disingenuous, I'll say, about this statement right here, saying it's unavailable on Android or the web, as if that's part of the technical issues that it's having, right? That's not actually a technical issue. That was a choice. They decided to launch it on the App Store first. So it's a little bit disingenuous, lumping its unavailability on Android or the web in with the technical problems, but so be it, right? That's what they're saying. So they said Truth Social was launched on Monday morning to coincide with President's Day, but it appears the developers of the platform still have a lot of work to do. The app is not available on Android phones. It is not available outside the US. There is no web version of Truth Social. Now, those things, I would say, probably aren't issues, actually, right? They're actually choices that were made because there's so much demand for this app that they knew if they launched it on all of these platforms. I mean, they're already getting error messages. They're already having to put people on wait lists. Imagine if they launched it on all of these platforms. Then there probably would be, a shutdown of the internet, right? There's just so many people downloading this thing. If they launched it everywhere, then it could really cause some problems. And they go on to say, and even those few iPhone users who have been able to get the app to download have been greeted with error messages and very long wait lists. So sure, that's true, right? There have been error messages and wait lists. But what game or what app that launches that has this much hype around it and this many new people downloading it doesn't get that kind of a thing going on? I mean, there are very few smooth launches nowadays. I think back to all the games that I've played in the past, and typically on launch day, there are a ton of issues, especially if it's for a multiplayer or social media kind of thing like this, where people are using servers and that kind of stuff. If you're not just downloading the thing and playing it on your own or using it on your own, then there's almost certainly going to be a ton of issues. Now, we're also going to look at some of the statistics regarding DWAC, which are relatively exciting. And before we do, I wanted to show you guys something that you might be interested in, okay? Big, exciting announcement. You guys can probably see it in the comment section, and I'll make it the pinned comment if that's possible. And you guys will then be able to just click this link right here if you guys are interested. I'll put this in the comments and pin the message right there. So hopefully you guys can see that link. We are starting up a locals channel. Now, this is something I've been working on with some of the people at Rumble and some of the people at Locals. It's something that they've been very bullish on, right? They really want to see this go live. They're trying to expand the Rumble and Locals community. And so I've decided to help out with that. I will be starting up a Locals channel. I'm going to look for the page right here. So there are a couple of ways to access this. One, you could go to the link in the description. It should take you right there. Or if you're watching on Rumble or Locals, you're probably watching on a screen like this, and you can just click the Join Locals button, and you can join up right here. So we've already got one post. It's just the intro post, and basically this is a community, an investing community. Hopefully we're going to be able to build a pretty reliable community of investors there. Now, there is a monthly cost to it, so it's by no means mandatory, right? Nobody has to sign up for it. The main purpose of a Locals channel is actually to support creators. So if anyone wants to help out and support the channel, feel free to visit the Locals channel. It would be very much appreciated. But I will say, it also helps out Rumble, right? If you're a big fan of Cfvi, then it does help them out. It helps them get their user numbers up. It helps them build a little bit of revenue, so it helps me as well with them, something I'm very happy to do. And it is going to be a place where we can work together to better our investing skills and, not give away any financial advice, no kind of legal implications are involved in this, right? There's no financial advice being given out. It's just our opinions in the community, a completely safe place to talk about our opinions regarding investing. And my hope is that, we'll be able to generate a lot more value than what I can generate just on this channel here alone, right? Because I am one person, and I can only do one person's worth of research. I don't have a team working with me or anything like that. Hopefully, the community can come together, and we'll all be able to work together to help each other out. So that's the hope for the community. We'll see how it goes. I've not used locals before, but if anyone wants to sign up, that would be much appreciated. So that is the big announcement that we've got. If anyone's interested in that, feel free to sign up. Now we will get back into some of the statistics regarding DWAC. So we will pull up the short interest on DWAC, and some of the shorts are probably panicking right around now, because if you look at the chart, this thing was up over 60% in just a couple of hours. It's up to $138, or it was earlier, right? It was up over 60%. We're now sitting just below 100. They're probably very scared watching this thing open, because now we're getting to the point where pretty much all the shorts are out of the money. If you look at the short interest, it's currently sitting around 13%. 3.93 million people are shorting this thing. And overall, it's not been the best play for them, right? They probably made a big mistake shorting this. Most of them, when they did, right? A lot of people did come in when this thing was maybe at $100, maybe a little bit above 100. If they happened to catch it on that very second day of DWAC trading, maybe they caught it over $100. But there were relatively few opportunities to be catching this thing and shorting it above 100. And now that we're approaching 100 again, that means that most of these shorts, pretty much all of these shorts, are out of the money, right? They're losing money on this short trade, and they don't like the look of the future for this stock, because the future looks fairly bright. They're looking at this thing launching its app. A ton of new users are signing up, so many that they have to put users on wait lists. And the shorts are probably getting pretty scared, right? 3.93 million shares. This is one of the most heavily shorted SPACs out there, DWAC is. And a bunch of those shorts, once again, we're probably getting in below $100. If you look back over the past 90 days or so, you're looking at a situation where most of the shorts were probably coming in. A lot of shorts were probably trading hands around $70, $80, $60, $50. Some were probably even shorting at $40, thinking that it was a great move on their part. They were looking at the chart right around here and thinking, wow, this thing just sank to 40. Next it's 30, next it's 20, then it's 0. And it was the exact opposite, right? We ended up pumping up, and now we're closer to 100 than we are to 0. So it's scary to see for a lot of the shorts out there. Some of them are probably panicking. Will we get a short squeeze? We'll see, right? We'll probably have to get a bit higher than this to actually start squeezing out some shorts, but it would not surprise me to see a decent amount of shorts starting to cover today. We'll just have to see what happens over the course of the trading day. In another 10 minutes just about, we'll actually get the open on DWAC, and we'll see how many shorts decide to start covering right around then. But it would not surprise me to see quite a few. And another reason why we might see some positive price movement pressure is this right here. DWAC stock searches on Google Trends. You can actually see that we are making records today. So this is a chart of the past week, and you can see over the past 7 days or so, the highest that we've gotten relative to where we are now is around a 30. So it looks like we're maybe getting 3 times as many searches for DWAC stock as we have before. It would not surprise me at all to see a ton of volume come in when the market opens. Now, this could go one of two ways, right? Maybe people decide to sell the news. Maybe we actually get a little bit of selling pressure. That's entirely possible, right? I don't want to say that for sure this stock is going to pump up, because nobody can actually know what's going on in the stock market, right? There's no way to say for sure if a stock is going up, but we're looking at this thing and it's looking pretty bullish, right? We're seeing a ton of people search up DWAC stock, and they're not searching it up because some horrible news came out. They're not searching it up because the price is crashing. They're searching it up because a great catalyst just arrived. We got the release of the Truth Social app, and a ton of people are searching for the underlying stock and potentially looking at investing in that. So that could actually be a big mover for the price if a bunch of new investors decide to come in. You know, up until this point, it was mostly, I would say, probably the investing community that knew about this. Not a lot of people, unless they're involved in the stock market, probably knew that Trump was launching a company, that it was going to be launching this social media app, that there was an underlying stock, DWAC, which doesn't sound anything like Trump Media and Technology Group, right? Since it's a SPAC. A lot of people probably didn't know this was trading, and you had to be pretty involved in the stock market to know about it. Now we're getting to the point where we're seeing some people understand that, hey, Truth Social, I can download it on my iPhone. There must be a company underlying this. Maybe some people will look into it. Another thing that we might want to wait for to see some additional price increases is when we actually trade as TMTG instead of DWAC. That could be a big one for us, but we'll have to see what happens today, right? I'm very excited to see what happens at the opening bell. It could be really good stuff. It could be not the best, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Overall, I mean, you can't complain when you surge up on Google Trends. You're at the very least introducing the idea of DWAC to a bunch of additional people. So we'll see what's going on with it in just a couple of minutes if the Google Trends data ends up helping out, if all of the people searching for it end up helping out. Now, it's not just Google Trends, all right? There are a couple of places in addition, such as StockTwits. We're on the #1 trending page for StockTwits. #1 is DWAC, top trending, and the #3 most active. And that could certainly change throughout the course of the day. We could definitely get a bunch of additional people searching for DWAC stock. It would not surprise me to see us moving up both in terms of trending and most active. We could definitely see that. So we'll have to see what happens with the StockTwits data, the Google Trends data, and also we'll look at the Reddit data. It's currently #5 right here. So DWAC, Digital World Acquisition Company, is #5 on Reddit. So we are moving up there as well. A decent amount of mentions, not too many upvotes. Once again, this news is somewhat fresh, and we haven't actually had a market day when we've been open. So we'll see what happens over the course of the day. If a ton of new people end up buying into the stock, then we might start getting some more mentions on social media sites like Reddit, StockTwits on Google, and that could help drive additional price increases. But we'll just have to wait the next 8 minutes to see what's going to happen with this stock when we actually open up. It could be exciting stuff. Now, there is one somewhat worrying thing going on. And that doesn't have anything to do necessarily, not too much directly to do with DWAC, but it does have to do with the market overall. The SPY was certainly suffering from this earlier. And it looks like we are potentially going to be making more lows. Well, we certainly made some more lows in the pre-market with the SPY, right? We hit as low as $425 just about. And unfortunately, we are moving down with the SPY over the first couple of minutes, and I will get right back to this. Zach Taylor asks, good morning, Rob. Did you make your big announcement yet? Yes, I did. It is in the pinned comment. If anyone wants to check out that pinned comment or the link in description, you can join up the locals community, the investing community that we're making. If anyone's interested and anyone wants to support the channel, that is an option there. So good morning, Zach. And yes, I did make that announcement, but we'll make it in a couple more videos, right? We'll talk about it from time to time, just in case anyone missed this. But Russia is helping to move down the stock market today, all right? We're not seeing good stuff coming out of Russia. Unfortunately, we are seeing a lot more fear roll in as Russian troops roll in, and sanctions, right? So Russian sanctions roll in as officials warn invasion of Ukraine has begun. So unfortunately, Putin has ordered troops into 2 breakaway regions of eastern Ukraine. So we're going to look at what exactly that means, all right? So Putin orders forces into rebel eastern Ukrainian regions after recognizing their independence. So essentially what's been going on is over the past maybe 6, 7, 8 years, there have been rebel groups in Ukraine in these 2 eastern regions ever since Russia annexed Crimea. And we're looking at a situation now where Russia is saying those rebel groups aren't just rebel groups, they are independent nations. And Putin actually said, all right, this is Putin's quote, he said, I deem it necessary to make a decision that should have been made a long time ago and to immediately recognize the independence and sovereignty of Donetsk People's Republic and Luhansk People's Republic. Putin said that. So we're looking at a situation where Putin just recognized the independence of 2 areas that have broken off from Ukraine, now somewhat officially. I don't know if the U.S. is recognizing it. The U.S. is not, Biden hasn't actually said this is an invasion. The United States health minister, I believe, said that this was an invasion. Or no, the UK health minister said this was an invasion. And one of the old aides, one of the old emissaries to Russia, I think from the U.S., said this was an invasion as well. So we're going to see what happens with this whole situation. But deployment of Russian troops into eastern Ukraine marks renewed invasion, UK's Boris Johnson says. So we're looking at a scary situation. The stock market might not be reacting the best to this, right? We haven't seen great stuff coming from the stock market ever since this whole Russia situation began. And it looks like we are, unfortunately, maybe going to be opening a bit lower than where we closed yesterday. We closed the day around 434. We're currently set to open around 432. And we were as low in the pre-market as 425 or 426. So somewhat scary stuff for the market. And that could have a little bit of a drag on DWAC. I'm sure that overall, you guys all probably know this. When you see stocks pumping up, it's a lot easier to pump a stock up on a day when the market's doing incredibly well and when there's not the threat of World War III and nuclear warfare going on. So overall, DWAC is going to do its best, but the overall market could be dragging it down a little bit. It's not impossible that the overall market could be dragging this thing down just a little bit. We'll see what happens. Hopefully that's not going to be the case. It looks like the U.S. hasn't actually begun fighting with Russia yet. There's no war declared between us. It looks like at the moment, Russia is moving some troops into those two breakaway regions that they're now recognizing as independent nations that will probably be nations pretty friendly to Russia and unfriendly to Ukraine and potentially unfriendly to NATO and the United States as well. We're going to see what happens with it in the short term, though, because the short term is the most risky time for these nations and for the United States and for Russia, right? That's when we're really worried about a potential war breaking out. If these nations end up existing and we just forget about the situation for a year, it's probably going to turn into nothing. But in the short term, we do have a little something to worry about. We have to worry about what's going to happen. Are we actually going to declare war on Russia and try to get those nations put back as part of Ukraine? Most likely, no, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I can't. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't see the future. I don't know what we're actually going to do. It's in Biden's hands at this point. He's the commander-in-chief. He can decide what we're going to do with the military. But I would think that we're probably not going to war with Russia. And let's see, though. Let's see. Maybe we will. And if we did, that certainly would have a negative impact on the stock market, most likely. Over the short term. Over the long term, it could be a great buying opportunity as long as the world doesn't blow up. So we'll hope that it doesn't. We'll hope that we can continue doing good stock price-wise over the long term, regardless of what happens with this whole situation. This whole situation, we've looked at this in the past. It is, at the end of the day, just a buying opportunity. We actually have this little chart drawn here that shows right now as risk is increasing, right? We're seeing higher than normal risk. We're seeing risk increase. That is actually leading to a decrease in price in a lot of these stocks. And we are probably going to see an increase in price as this risk dissipates, as it goes away. And hopefully that will be the case, right? Hopefully we'll see all of that risk go away and price can go up again. That would be the hope. If risk continues to get worse in the short term, then we could see stock prices continue to move down. But for the long term, if you're buying stocks for the long term, then there's never actually a better time to be buying over the long term than when there is incredible risk. During a recession, when there's a ton of fear, that's typically when you want to be buying. And I'll pull up this. I'll pull up the Fear and Greed Index right here. And you can see this Fear and Greed Index is showing that right now we're in a pretty fearful time now. It doesn't seem as fearful maybe as you would expect, right? Where you'd think if there's a threat of nuclear war, then we'd probably have a little bit more fear. But currently, CNN Business is at least showing the Fear Greed Index at a 38. So overall, looks like there's a pretty high fear. And typically, that means stock prices are a little bit subdued. They have gone down a little bit. People have sold off because they're afraid. And as we might move this dial more to the right, as people might become a little bit less fearful and a little bit more greedy, they would be buying up stocks then, right? They'd want to make big gains, and you'd probably see an increase in stock price. So we'll see if we can get that going on in the next couple of months. Hopefully 2022 will be a good year for the stock market. Overall, though, if you look at what we've done 2022 this far, it's not been too pretty, and we will start looking at these stock prices in just a second. But over the past month or 2 months now at this point, the stock market's not been doing too good. In fact, we hit highs on pretty much the first day of trading, and from the highs of the year, which was just the second day of it, to where we are now, we're down about 10% stock price-wise. So scary stuff. We've done pretty poorly on our overall performance in the stock market, and it's not the best situation to be looking at. But we're going to see what goes on with DWAC. And thank you, NJ. Thank you very much. Happy $2 Tuesday, he says. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. So DWAC, it looks like we're getting some selling pressure coming in. completely understandable, right? A lot of people might have been buying in the week prior just in anticipation of the launch of Truth Social. Some of them are probably traders. Some of them aren't long-term investors, and they just want to sell this thing as soon as they've made a 10, 15, 20% profit. A lot of people surely sold. A lot of the more active traders surely sold when this thing was higher, around 130, 138, and in the upper hundreds. So, some people were probably selling. Some of the traders were probably getting out. And it's no surprise that some people are selling a little bit as we open up. We'll see if this persists, if we end up moving down more and more, or if we do end up struggling with 100. I would think that we would probably end up hitting 100 at some point today, at the very least to test 100, if not break through it. That would be my expectation, but we'll see what happens with it. Hopefully, the markets will start moving up, and that could help out with DWAC. Now, for those of you who are interested, I know there are some people who like PHUN stock as well. PHUN is loosely tied to DWAC, mostly, through rumor. There's no guarantee that PHUN is going to be linked to DWAC, but it's worth mentioning that this one did end up pumping up in a pretty big way as well, right? From the close to the highs, it was up 40.99%, and where it is now, it's up about 11%. So it's pretty much on par with DWAC. So this one, don't forget about it. It's moving up as well. It's typically not as bullish as DWAC, and over the long term, it's a little bit riskier because there's no guarantee that it's going to be working with Trump Media and Technology Group. There's no guarantee it's going to be working with Truth Social. It's just speculation and rumor and hype at this point, but that doesn't mean you can't make some money on it if you were holding it over the course of the day. It looks like DWAC is moving down a little bit, which is unfortunate, right? We're down about 8.5% on the day. Hopefully, we're going to start moving back up. I would think that we would most likely be hitting $100 at some point, but we'll see, right? There's no guarantees. That's just a little suspicion that I've got and is in no way a guarantee. Now, while we wait for that to happen, there is something that I wanted to discuss, and it regards stocks that we have been quite interested in for a long time. And it's actually kind of something important for the overall economy, right? This story will seem a little vague at first, and then you'll understand why we're talking about it, all right? 64% of unemployed men in their 30s have criminal records, a barrier to landing a job. Now, that's not the only barrier, but that is probably a significant barrier for a lot of people. Obviously, if over half of men, of unemployed men in their 30s have criminal records, then obviously that's having some effect, right? It's not having a good effect. Having a criminal record certainly makes it a little bit tougher to get a job. And this study just showed that more than half of people in their 30s who can't get a job have a criminal record. So overall, that's a big problem. Now, why are we talking about this? What does this have to do with the stock market? Well, obviously, ideally, those people would be able to get jobs and become productive members of society. But there's more to it than that. In fact, we actually have to pull up a couple of tweets from two politicians, one a Democrat, Chuck Schumer, and one a Republican, Representative Nancy Mace, because this is actually something very prevalent, and it's federal cannabis legalization. A lot of these unemployed men, their criminal records are likely drug-related, right? A lot of the crimes that are commit are drug-related crimes, and they might have that on their records for possessing a certain amount of cannabis or for selling cannabis or whatever it is. And we would be looking at a situation if we saw federal cannabis legalization, as Chuck Schumer says, we would be looking at a situation where maybe that wouldn't be as prevalent of an issue. He says in this tweet, comprehensive federal cannabis legalization with justice for the communities most impacted by the war on drugs, which the war on drugs is certainly leading to a much larger group of people having criminal records, right? Whenever the police arrest someone for possessing drugs, those people get a criminal record. And he says especially communities of color is a Senate priority. So it's a Senate priority to basically to federally legalize cannabis and to help lower this statistic, right? We want fewer people with this criminal record, more people able to get jobs, more people able to potentially even work at dispensaries and whatnot legally instead of illegally selling this stuff. And he says this is long overdue and we will move forward. Now, what's exciting, now we talk about this a lot, is that it's not just Democrats, right? It's Republicans as well. Nancy Mace being endorsed by Amazon. Amazon is actually endorsing federal cannabis legalization as well as Representative Nancy Mace, who is a Republican. They're all endorsing it, right? Big companies, big tech companies especially, right? Amazon's endorsing it. Democrats are endorsing it, obviously. Republicans are endorsing it. Criminals are endorsing it, right? Criminals really want these records to be expunged, right? They want these to go away. So I'm sure criminals love the idea that cannabis could be legalized and that they would no longer be criminals. That would be great for them. So we're looking at a situation where there's a ton of pressure and a ton of benefit to legalizing cannabis, and that would certainly help out stocks like Sundial. We would probably get a big pump in the stock price if we did end up seeing that. Currently, we're down on the day with Sundial. Just wanted to mention it, just put that out there, just because this story did catch my eye, that a lot of people who are unemployed, unfortunately, do have these criminal records, and it's my suspicion that a lot of these criminal records are based on drug offenses. So we could see a potential benefit to not just, these cannabis stocks and not just people who want to use cannabis, but people who are potentially suffering at the moment from having criminal records, for being unable to use the substances which they might wish they could, and who were caught for using those substances. So we'll see what goes on. Sundial is currently bouncing off of support of 53 cents, which we had that drawn from a while ago. Now, it looks like we'll hopefully be bouncing off that for the day and be moving up. DWAC, hopefully we will be bouncing off of the $90 support for DWAC. It looks like we just hit that, and hopefully we'll be bouncing off of it. We've got to see what's going on. These two bars are looking pretty good for us at the moment. The markets are actually bouncing with DWAC. The past two bars on the markets are green, and it looks like DWAC has potentially been brought down by the markets a little bit, right? As people are more and more worried about this war with Russia and the potential sanctions that are rolling in, the potential increase in the cost of oil and whatnot, that is having an overall negative impact on stocks. Now, what's interesting, though, is that the S&P is down 0.6%, and DWAC is up 7.5%. So overall, we're seeing decent stuff with DWAC, right? We're actually seeing it be green on the day, whereas the S&P is down. So we are certainly outperforming the S&P, not to be unexpected, right? That's exactly what we would expect to see on the launch of their main program, their main product, Truth Social. So we will have to wait just probably maybe a month is my guess, and then we'll probably get some kind of numbers coming out regarding how many people downloaded this. We'll probably get some data, and it'll be really interesting to me to look at how many people are downloading this application, potentially record-setting numbers downloading this application. Once again, the last election, a ton of people showed up. 48% of the population showed up one way or the other, and looking at the numbers, 74 million of them were voting for Trump. And it's my expectation that not only will a large percentage of these people want to be downloading Truth Social, there are probably just a lot of people, maybe around the world even, who will want to be downloading the app. A lot of people in Canada potentially will want to download it, and it could be much more than 74 million people wanting to download this thing in the first couple of months. So we'll probably see great numbers. And once again, I wanted to reiterate that I think Trump made a great decision launching a digital company, a company that doesn't rely on physical products, that can reach an unlimited, essentially, number of people, and has that incredible form of leverage behind it, because it's going to be able to become much more profitable than some kind of physical retail company. He's going to be able to make a lot more money with it, and the holders of the company, the stockholders, are going to be able to make a lot more money as well. So overall, good decision on his part. We've seen really great stuff come from this company so far. We've seen the stock price perform incredibly well. Since we launched at $10 per share, now we're hitting up $90. We've 9x'd already, and we haven't even turned from the SPAC into the actual ticker symbol. Now, I will point out that when you do turn from a SPAC into a ticker symbol, you can see some pretty impressive stuff. And I'll bring up a company that some people might not be the biggest fan of, Black Rifle Coffee Company. Some people don't like that one too much, but I will use it as an example just to show this point that when it started trading as BRCC instead of SBEA, which is the SPAC name that it was trading as before, it was trading around $12, $13 as the SPAC, and as soon as it started trading as the ticker symbol, just a week or two later, it was up to $20, which is where we're currently at. We're currently around $20, 1976, and it's oftentimes really good for these stocks when they start trading as a more recognizable ticker symbol. A lot of people don't like buying the SPAC. They just want to wait for it to be the actual company and see what happens. They think that maybe there's some risk involved with holding the SPAC, and they prefer to buy it when it's the ticker symbol. So we could certainly see another boost to DWAC when it ends up transitioning into TMTG, Trump Media and Technology Group stock. We could certainly see it moving up, and that would be interesting. It looks like right now we are getting a little bit of a bounce off of the $90 support. Hopefully that will continue, and we'll pull back up the SPY just to see if the markets overall are seeing good stuff. It looks like they're seeing decent stuff, right? They're not crashing. We're only down 0.5% just about. So overall, it could have been a whole lot worse. We could have seen much deeper cuts to the market, considering the news that came out, considering the fact that Russian troops are in area that was, or potentially is by some people, considered part of Ukraine. That could have been quite scary to some people. We'll have to see what the U.S. response is. That could scare quite a few people if it's a harsh response, if we end up doing more than just imposing sanctions on them, though it looks like that is the approach that we're taking for now, right? Russian sanctions roll in as officials warn the invasion has begun. So it looks like we're just doing sanctions at the moment. We're not actually using our troops to counter theirs. So overall, it looks like the U.S. does not want a conflict. And hopefully, we won't see a massive conflict. Hopefully, this whole thing will blow over sometime soon. I can't imagine this lasts for years, right? This can only last maybe for another month. I mean, at tops, right? How long could we really be in this conflict unless an actual war starts? And then, yeah, we could see some real conflict. But I do think that the stock market is quick to forget about these kinds of things. And once these geopolitical risks and risks in general, once they kind of set in and people start to think of them as normal, then we start to get back to a place where the stock market's moving up. And we're already seeing it looks like, with the S&P today. Despite Russian troops moving into these two breakaway zones, these two rebel zones in Ukraine, it looks like the stock market might be moving towards a green day on the day. I mean, a lot of people were pretty afraid of what was going to happen today. And overall, it's looking like, despite the fact that people are pretty fearful, that we have a fairly high fear reading on the Fear and Greed Index, people are still buying up stocks in general, which is impressive. Now, I'm not saying that everything's green. By no means is that the case. In fact, we're down quite a bit on some stocks, some of the smaller, more riskier ones. But overall, it's not the worst case scenario. Cryptos are down a little bit. We'll take a peek at cryptos for a second. Bitcoin's down 1.37%. And Bitcoin's actually been falling throughout this whole thing for a while. You know, a lot of people were hoping that Bitcoin and cryptos would act as a hedge against risk, that people might be worried that there's going to be some kind of catastrophe, similar to what people might do with gold when people are worried about some kind of apocalypse. Maybe more people are more inclined to buy gold. Bitcoin bulls, were hopeful that it would be the case with Bitcoin and all these other cryptos. They were hopeful that we would start buying up cryptos when there is more fear. And it looks like, unfortunately, for Bitcoin and for cryptos, that hasn't been the case, right? We've been moving down with the overall market during this kind of fearful time where we're not just worried about Russia, but about the Fed raising rates. And unfortunately, over the past couple of days as well, Bitcoin's been falling from highs of 44,000 just about down to 37,000. So we've lost about $7,000 per Bitcoin over the past couple of days. It's pretty significant stuff. And it's kind of scary to a lot of the holders of crypto. You know, a lot of the long-term holders aren't worried about it, but it is scary to see that cryptos are still pretty darn volatile, right? They're a lot more volatile than the market, which is a blessing and a curse, right? You can lose a lot of money really quickly. I mean, we just saw it with Ethereum as well. We were just at $3,100 7 days ago. Now we're at $2,600. So we've lost about $500 per Ethereum just over the course of the past week. So pretty scary stuff, you know, big movements in these cryptos. And it's also a blessing because we can, over the course of the past year, we moved from 1,500, now we're at 2,600 at our highs. We were at 4,700. So overall, you can do really great stuff with cryptos. And it looks like cryptos are more bullish when times are good. So they're not these risk-on assets that people are, or some people at least, were hoping they would become. You know, a lot of these cryptos are down 5% plus. We're looking at Dogecoin down 5%, Shiba Inu down 7%, Cardano down 7%, Solana down 5%. A lot of these cryptos, unfortunately, are moving down in somewhat sizable ways, and a lot of people are selling out of them as fears rise, and it looks like people are actually selling out of them more heavily than they are the overall market. Now, DWAC, it looks like it just broke through the $90 support. We'll see what we can get over the course of the day. If we get some good news coming out for this thing, if we get some more hype rallying people to it, we'll take a peek at the Google Trends chart and see what we've got. It looks like only more people have started talking about DWAC. Now at 9, we're making new records of 100, blasting away what we were doing at 8 a.m. So more and more people are searching for this thing. We're going to see how this plays out over the course of the day. If some people decide to buy the dip on it, it's potentially possible that some people will see, all right, This thing got a lot of good news coming out for it over the past weekend. Now it's only up 4%. It's back at $88. Maybe now's the time to buy. And once people start seeing it go up, that could be a very good sign for it. We could see some big moves on DWAC, but that's yet to be determined, right? We don't know for sure if we're going to see that. Hopefully we will, but there is no guarantee. Like I said, there's never a guarantee, but it would not surprise me to see this thing moving up and at least testing $100 during the actual trading day. I would have liked to see that happen maybe earlier, but it could certainly happen later. We're still waiting on DWAC to move up on StockTwits, right? It's still the #1 top trender, but we are waiting for it to become one of the most active. We would like this thing to move up to get a couple thousand more mentions, move up above Bitcoin, move up above the S&P. A lot of people are actually talking about the S&P right now because of the whole Russia-Ukraine situation. Okay, a ton of people are worried about that. But DWAC, it would not surprise me to see it move up over the next day or so, see us start moving up big there. And PHUN, notably, is following DWAC, right? We'll pull up PHUN real quick. PHUN, unfortunately, following the same pattern, starting to move down a little bit. It'll likely rise if DWAC rises, but no guarantee of that. We'll pull up Sundial on the chart right here just for people who are interested. It looks like Sundial did bounce off of 53 cents pretty nicely. We're up to 55.5. Hopefully we'll start gaining some traction again. There's not, at least that I'm aware of, any crazy news coming out for Sundial in the near future, but we are waiting on the Alcana merger to go through, so that will likely happen at some point in the next month and a half. They said during Q1 is when they were aiming to have that done by, and we'll hopefully see some positive price increases during that time, right, when the Alcana acquisition goes through. Now, the S&P, look at this. The S&P is actually making highs of the trading day. We're starting to break out of this bearishness that we were seeing during the pre-market. So hopefully that will translate into DWAC and Sundial as well. We'll hopefully see that. And Vivi says, the region that they talk about today, the Russian regions, have been over 8 years in war. That's right. Ever since the Crimea annexation, I think they said somewhere in this story, yeah, they said somewhere that those areas were being that they were in ongoing crisis, that they were perpetually kind of a war zone with the rebels ever since the Crimea crisis. The Russian-backed rebels and the Ukrainian military have been fighting there for quite a while. So we'll see what happens now that Russia is more officially backing them. Now that it's more officially moving in, and I don't know if they've actually shot at any Ukrainian troops. We'll have to see what comes out over the next couple of hours, next couple of days. If there is a big war that breaks out, it could be scary stuff. Hopefully we won't see anything too damaging, right? We hopefully won't see any big war. It's unfortunate that this is happening to whoever is in Ukraine and doesn't want it to happen, whoever's worried about these troops moving in. That is real unfortunate, but we'll hopefully not see too much additional conflict. That would not be good for stocks or for the people living there. That would not be good. And once again, guys, I will point out, for those of you who are curious about what the big announcement was, I know not everyone was here at the beginning of the stream. Zach missed it. But we will once again briefly discuss the Rob Almazy's Locals community. Let me try and pull this up and see what we've got. We currently have a little page right here where people can check it out if they're interested. You can go to Rob Almazy, let's see, what is the link? robalmazy.locals.com. So if anyone wants to check it out, it's the pinned comment in the description, and it's the link at the top of the description of the stream. We'll certainly be adding that link to a bunch of videos, but this is basically what it is, right? There's only one post, a welcome to the community post, and we'll certainly be posting something later on today. People can check this out if they want. It's basically like some kind of social media community, except it's closed off to just members of the community, and you can join communities for different people like Brussels Brand, Matt Kors, and those are the only ones that I'm a part of at the moment, but you can certainly get some good info. We'll probably be trying to provide some exclusive content to the Locals community if anyone's interested in it. And now, I will say, we finally got the market map opening up. This usually takes a while to load in, but now you can see what's going on in the stock market overall, broken down by section, due to mostly this Russia-Ukraine crisis, right? We're seeing most of the stocks moved down. Some are green. It's not as if this is a massive market crash like we saw in the S&P. We're only down 0.02%. We're not actually down that much. We're almost at break even on the day. So it's mostly the bigger technology companies, it looks like, that are moving down and potentially dragging things down. But oil, energy, oil and gas are actually doing pretty darn good. And we've talked about this in the past. One of the reasons why they're doing pretty good is because Russia and Ukraine are producers of oil. People are worried that if there is some kind of conflict, we're not going to have as much access to the oil from Russia, and that potentially, if there is some kind of war, that we could see even less access because we might need to use oil for war purposes. And we've actually got a story out of Germany regarding the same thing. Germany halts approval of gas pipeline Nord Stream 2 after Russia's actions. So let's see. This may have been a pipeline that was meant to take gas from Russia directly to Europe. So that looks like it might be part of the sanctions, but Germany has halted approval of that. And we're going to see, that could start or could end up creating higher gas prices, higher oil prices, at least in Europe. Because if they halted that pipeline, then there's going to be less accessibility to oil in Europe, and Russia's going to have more oil. And that's just about the only thing that they're going to have more of if there's overall less trade. So we're looking at a situation where oil has already gotten quite expensive. I'm sure you guys have seen it if you've gone to the pumps. It's costing around, at least in my area, around $3.40-something now. So we haven't quite gotten to $3.50, but we are on the way. And it looks like after this, we might be there already. I haven't filled up the tank in a day or two, and it was already around $3.45 when I last filled it up. So we could certainly see higher oil and gas prices. And it's actually interesting, the similarities between what Russia is doing to us and what we did to them back when they were the Soviet Union. Russia doesn't necessarily want this conflict to end anytime soon. They might decide to drag this thing on for a long time, and they might do it because they know that the United States is in a little bit of a tough spot, right? We're dealing with big inflation. And I'll pull up the chart right here. The inflation rate is fairly significant. We're already at 7.5%. Now, this is only going to get worse if oil and gas prices continue to rise. Russia might be kind of poking at us, trying to make all of our costs go up because of all this conflict, because oil and gas will be getting more expensive. That does have a cascading effect. A lot of products use oil and gas. Pretty much all products are delivered using vehicles that consume oil and gas. So in the end, oil and gas is pretty important for overall inflation rates, right? If the price of oil and gas goes up significantly, then the cost of producing everything and transporting everything increases. And Russia is, in a way, kind of making our inflation situation worse, right? It would not surprise me to see inflation increasing more than what people were expecting due to this whole Russia-Ukraine conflict. We might end up seeing even more inflation and even more fear regarding inflation in the future, long after this conflict has ended, just because oil and gas will have been expensive for some time. Companies' earnings will be lower. They'll have had to pay more for oil and gas that they've used, and they'll have to maybe raise prices a little bit, depending on what they're providing. So we're looking at a situation where Russia is taking its toll on the United States one way or another, but that is not actually being reflected in the stock market. The S&P is actually up on the day despite this news. So people overall look like they're starting to come to terms with a little bit some of the tension that's going on with Russia. It looks like we're not actually seeing massive crashes in due to the Russia-Ukraine situation that just happened over the weekend due to this little incursion, as some might call it, into Ukraine. It looks like the stock market's reacting fairly well. Now, will it continue to do that the rest of the day? Maybe, maybe not. We've seen this happen before. We've moved up in the pre-market and in the initial first couple hours of trading, and then we have moved down throughout the rest of the day, and that can create a somewhat negative situation for the market. If you see some buying pressure, they tend to lure in some investors who might think, oh, this crash is over. Let me buy some short-term call options, and then they just flip a switch, basically, and the market starts moving down. The algorithm starts selling, they start shorting, and we do end up moving down, and then those call options end up losing most of their value. That's happened to us before in the past. Over the past couple of days, we've seen some instances of that happening where we've moved up and then moved down. But at the moment, we did make new lows on this short-term downtrend that we're on. we didn't hit lows of all time for this overall crash, right? The all-time lows for this crash, we'll pull up the 180-day chart. The all-time lows were $420 just about. We hit $425, so we've got some way to go before we actually make new lows on this. And hopefully we don't hit it anytime soon, right? Hopefully we end up just moving up, bouncing to the upside, and I would be more than happy to see this whole conflict just wash away and for people to forget about it, for gas prices to move back down. I would love to see that. And for the stock prices to continue appreciating. Now, it looks like DWAC has actually gotten back to this $90 level. So it's looking like we're not going to see too bearish of a day for DWAC after all. We're up 7% on the day still, despite, being up 60% at one point. I think people would have preferred if it just stayed there and moved flat. But we could overall see some good stuff coming from DWAC over the course of the day, right? This is still a very bullish day. And as people start to see it moving up, getting some positive momentum, it could be the opposite of what we might see in the market, where we were moving down with DWAC initially. Some people get fearful, they decide to sell their shares, and then once some people have gotten fearful, sold their shares, we might see it move up. Now, obviously, a lot of people want to take profits on it. Completely understandable. I can't fault you if that's what you want to do. That's your call, right? Pretty much everyone at this point is up and up in a big way regarding DWAC. Pretty much everyone is green on it. There's been very little opportunity to buy higher than where it is. Sure, there was a lot of volume trading these initial couple of days, but there's probably a lot of people who are buying up in the $40 area, the $50, $60, $70 area, and we're probably going to see some continued appreciation in DWAC price. It's just that kind of stock where a lot of people are hyping it up, and there are a ton of people just now finding out about it, and regardless, we're going to see most likely very high user numbers for Truth Social. So it's providing a pretty good opportunity, in my opinion. There's a lot of people using this thing, enough people downloading Truth Social to cause technical issues and for them to have to create a wait list for new people wanting to make accounts. So, they even said themselves, due to massive demand, we've placed you on our wait list. So we're looking at a situation where DWAC is probably going to be doing pretty darn good over the next couple of weeks and months as more and more news comes out, as they do get closer to a full release. As the CEO of Trump Media Technology Group said, Devin Nunes, he said this. He said the company has the goal of making the app fully operational by the end of March, at least within the US. So we're going to likely see expansion of this app for a long time, right? By the end of March, we want it fully operational in the US. And does that mean it's available on not just the web, but on Android phones? Hopefully. But we'll see it moving on to Android and the web, and we'll also see expansion into other countries as well. I'm sure Canada will probably have a big market for this. A lot of truckers will probably be using this in Canada. And overall, it could be a very bullish situation for the stock at a fundamental level over the long term. Now, I will say it's gone up a lot in price, and if you want to take profits, that's your call on it, right? I can't stop you from taking profits. I'm currently selling some put options against it, so I'm taking long position by selling put options, and we can make a video about that, talk about that, why I'm a big fan of put options and or selling put options, I should say. It's a pretty riskless, not riskless. There's always some risk when you're trading anything, but we're looking at good stuff with the put options as well. The put options have been doing incredibly well as DWAC has been going up. Maybe we'll make a video on that if anyone is interested. It's a little bit more niche. I know not everyone is interested in playing options on this. Some of you guys just want to buy and hold the stock. That's definitely the simplest way to do it. And it looks like it's outperforming Facebook. Facebook is down to 205, hitting lows of 190 in the pre-market. That might have been a little glitch, though, on the chart. But DWAC certainly outperforming Facebook. Yeah, Facebook's not been doing too good and is not doing too good during this launch of DWAC and Truth Social. So we'll see what happens throughout the rest of the day, but it is getting to be 10 o'clock. So that is the stream for the day, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully we're going to see a lot more green with DWAC. And make sure, guys, if you're interested at all, maybe when the stream is ending, to hit that link in description. Check out Rob Almazy Locals. It is a community that I'm looking forward to building, and hopefully we'll be able to help each other out, share some research. We'll see what we can build in that community. If anyone's interested in joining, feel free down below. We're certainly looking to build that out over the next couple of weeks and months. So if you guys are interested in that, hit the link. Other than that, feel free to hit the like button if you want to do that. And I'll see you guys tomorrow at 9 sharp. We'll take account of what happened with DWAC and Sundial and all our other favorite stocks. So other than that, guys, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow at 9. Bye.